CINCOTRESS time, baby. So these are pretty awesome for the price. I like them better than the DOSCINCOs. Why, Jay? Why do you like these more than the DOSCINCOs? Well, it's because they're way more clean, but still very energetic and has that bassy sound to them. Similar to the variations, the CINCOTRESS also has a scoop, but the difference this time is that number one, the scoop is a lot smaller, and number two, it happens a lot later and doesn't affect the rhythmic and the drum section as much, if any at all. And with the increased mid bass over the variations on top of the scoop and the smaller delay, the low end now feels more natural and not thin and just like unnatural like the variations. In terms of the subwoofer like effect that you get from the variations, it still does that better because, you know, the scoop is bigger, there is a bigger contrast, giving more space for the sub bass to kind of breathe, and you just like, it's more obvious because it also has more sub bass extension in general. But even if that is the case, the CINCOTRESS overall just feels more natural. It feels fuller, not as thin in the vocals and the drum section and the rhythm section, not as airy and resolving as the variations either. But tonality wise, I like these CINCOTRESS a lot more. They're just like way more musical and also like 2 times cheaper. I wouldn't have recommended the variations for rock or hip hop due to the scoop, but the CINCOTRESS on the other hand is solid for those genres. It's just solid in general as an all-rounder. I would also take these bad boys over the Hype 2 as the best all-rounder under $300. The Hype 2 is like a little cleaner and more airy than the CINCOTRESS, but the low-end impact, texture, and vocals are better on the CINCOTRESS in my opinion. The vocals on the Hype 2 just doesn't feel as powerful. They're like more light and more laid back. The CINCOTRESS overall just feels more energetic and engaging because of the extra bass, which is well controlled, not bass head or anything like that, but you know, it's still fun and more than satisfying enough for non-bass heads. The attack and decay is very solid, and overall it's just like a lot more engaging than the Hype 2 in my opinion. But before we jump into it, this video is sponsored by you guys. As you guys all know, I buy most of my IEMs. I get some here and there, right? But I want to try to like remain free from influence, but I can't buy every IEM in the world. I'm not rich, right? So I do need your guys' help to kind of like keep purchasing IEMs to review. I made a whole video about this. Go check that out. So if you'd like to support me, please join the channel membership. It's only $5 a month. I do giveaways there, so like it's a pretty good deal. $5 for like a Hype 2. That's a pretty no-brainer in my opinion. Anyway, now versus the EA1000 and the LM, both of the SIMGOTs have a more gradual bass glide, so no scoop or anything like that, which makes the contrast in the low end with the other frequency not as obvious and not as like fun, you can say. The SIMGOTs are also cleaner and brighter, not as bassy, and just like more sparkly in the upper mids and the treble. And tech wise, they're around the same, with the only difference being in the air and the treble detail, where the SIMGOTs well do those better, and because you can just hear the highs more clearly because it's like more boosted. But I do want to point out that there are some unit variances with the SIMGOTs. I was looking at some different graphs the other day, and some of the formats and the LM just graphed brighter than my unit, which makes a lot of sense now that why people say it's like too bright or energetic, because well, unit variations, it graphs a lot brighter. Thank you, Sci-Fi. Because of that and just the tuning in general, the vocals are smoother on the CINCOTRESS. They are tamer in the 4 to 8K region, which I know some of you guys will love because you're like sensitive in that region. It's just more of your normal Harman diffuse field ear gain, which means no scoops, good extension, and air, you know, open, normal distant vocal presentation. Now, even though they tame the 4 to 8K, some of you guys might still find the peak at around 8 to 10K to be like a little bit much on certain songs. Unlike the Storm, which also has that peak there, the Storm does it extremely well because, well, it's one of the best IEMs in the world and it costs $5,000. With that aside, the 8 to 10K boost does highlight these cymbals very well. They slightly jump out from the rest of the frequency along with the low end, you know, creating that fun and dynamic sound, you know, slightly V-shaped. And even though the CINCOTRESS scales pretty good, it's not a blast your brains out type of kind of set. Now versus its brother, the DOSCINCO, again, I like the CINCOTRESS better because, you know, I'm okay with warm sets, you know, I don't hate them, but to me, it's either give me a crap ton of bass or give me like insane scaling and something special like the EJ07s, or some type of balanced, slightly bright sound signature. The low end does feel heavier on the DOSCINCOs. It feels more authoritative, more cohesive, because the rest of the frequency has like less dynamic contrast. There's no scoop or 8 to 10K boost that kind of gives it that fun factor or just make any region kind of like stick out. It's just your like very warm, typical, and full sounding set. To me, the DOSCINCO is more of your traditional warm Harman, like a heavy warm blanket, whereas the CINCOTRESS is like drinking a can of Monster or Red Bull, but like you're already addicted and drinking 1 can a day already, so it only like buzzes you a little, you know. It gives you that like slight energy and kick to your day. Other stuff like vocals and treble are more pronounced and cleaner on the CINCOTRESS because of the scoop, less low end, and just more extension in general. Overall tech is also like a little bit better on the CINCOTRESS, but if you want to crank it up and you know you like a smoother and warmer sound, then the DOSCINCO does scale much better. They're just more immersive with rock and hip-hop tracks. And versus the Quintet, it has like a more gradual bass glide. The low end isn't as punchy and rumbly as the CINCOTRESS. It's not as warm as the DOSCINCO, but the treble is more detailed, a little bit better than both of them, you know, slightly better in the resolution, although there was some metallic timbre on my unit, and just overall, you know, not as natural and fun as the CINCOTRESS. I would still pick up the CINCOTRESS as just like a better all-rounder set. Now, a direct upgrade to the CINCOTRESS would be the Hype 4 or the Monarch Mark 3s. I would personally jump straight to the Monarch Mark 3s or just like stop at the CINCOTRESS, because the Hype 4 is, you know, it's a little bit better in the resolution. It's got like a slight like V. It's more of like a U shape. It's like a slight V because the bass is pretty boosted and the treble is also a little bit boosted. But the difference is like maybe 10 to 15% compared to the CINCOTRESS. Plus, both of these sound signatures are just like very similar. But I do think the CINCOTRESS is a nice side grade for those who like own the Pulas, the CKL-VX, the Hexa, since those are more like balanced with tamer vocal gain, and the CINCOTRESS is like funner, but not too fun, because most people who like that neutral and balanced sound wouldn't typically want an IEM that's, you know, too bassy or too V-shaped. So I think the CINCOTRESS strikes that fine line of being slightly fun and different, but not too different, not too overwhelming. It's basically an adjusted diffuse field, and I think most people will like it. Another solid release from SIMGOT or SIMGOT. Anyways, I hope this video was helpful. If you like to support me, please join the channel membership so I can keep buying the IEMs and stay not influenced from like review units and stuff like that. But that aside, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see everyone in the next one.